Hey guys, welcome back. Today I'm going to be showing you how to paint up two different variants of Necron Armour. The first one a warm bone colour and the second one a cool blue steel colour, with the vast bulk of the work being carried out with dry brushing techniques only. And at the time of recording I still can't decide which one of these armours I like best. I think they both look pretty good and would work well across an entire army. So hopefully you guys can help me make that decision by leaving a comment down below letting me know which one you prefer. But for now, let's get into the painting. So firstly, starting with a black primer, I'm going to start to build up the colours for the bone armour. And to do that, I'm going to be using a variety of colours, starting with bootstrap brown, and then building up the highlights from there, using Vallejo English uniform, then Japanese uniform, and then switching back to Army Painter for skeleton bone, warm stone, and finally brain matter beige. With the idea here being that we want to build the colour up from a nice dark brown all the way up to a warm white. So starting with the bootstrap brown, I'm just going to apply a bit of the paint to the tip of my dry brush and then wipe away the excess onto a paper towel. And then with the paint that's left on the brush, I'm going to stipple that onto all of the armour panels. And there's really no secret to this technique. You don't need to be too neat or anything like that. You just need to make sure that you get a nice good coverage on all the armour parts. So that may require you doing more than one coat. And with this model specifically, you will need to switch up the size of dry brush used to get into all of the smaller and harder to reach areas, so just switch your brush size accordingly when needed. And then for the next two colours, which is the Vallejo English uniform and Japanese uniform, I'm just going to apply these in exactly the same way, covering around 95% of the previous colour and only leaving the previous colour in the very deepest of recesses. All of the time using the same stippling motion and switching between various sizes of dry brush. And then when it comes to the last three colours, which is the bone colour and the warm white colours, I'm going to switch from the stippling technique and start to dry brush. And that's going to involve me reducing the amount of paint that I have on my brush, and then just dry brushing over all of the raised surfaces on the model. With the first dry brush of the skeleton bone being a fairly heavy dry brush, and then getting progressively lighter as I move to the warm stone and then the brain matter beige. With the last layer just being a very light dry brush over all of the very top facing raised surfaces on the model. And for the kind of blue steel armour version of the model, I'm just going to be doing exactly the same thing, only this time using slightly less and different colours. Starting with Citadel Skaven Blight Dinge, and then highlighting up with Army Painter Night Sky, Runic Cobalt, Augur Blue and Brigade Grey. With the first three coats of the Skaven Blight Dinge, Night Sky and Runic Cobalt, using the same stippling technique as before. And then for the last two lighter colours, switching to the lighter dry brushing. And after building up all of the volumes on the armour parts on both models, I then used some black paint to paint in all of the spines on the tail, chest and back, and also the multitude of arms on the model as well. And the next step is to edge highlight all of these black areas with Army Painter Deep Grey, and you just need to apply a quick edge highlight to all the visible black areas. And once that's been dealt with, you should have some nicely highlighted models. that are ready to be shaded. Now, over the past couple of weeks, I've been watching a lot of the Feral Painter on YouTube, and he uses a lot of different and interesting products compared to what I use, and he always seems to get some really high quality results. And one of the products I've seen him use is the Villainy Inks range, so I thought I'd give them a try and see how they work out for me. And after trying these out on these models, I can tell you that these are good enamel washes and they definitely produce great results. However, the results aren't really any different from using any enamel or oil wash, be it streaking grime, Mr. Weathering, or just using your own mix of oil washes. All of these types of products produce an almost identical result, the only difference being a slight tonal variation in some of the colours, and also a varying degree of glossiness. And on that note, these Villainy inks do produce a slightly glossy finish in comparison to, say, some other oil washes, so do keep that in mind if you are using them, as you may need to use some matte varnish to take that shine away. So for these models I used the Goon's Grime for the bone coloured armour, and I used Ichor of the Gods for the blue steel coloured armour. And you just need to apply both of these to all of the armour parts on the model, and there's no need for any thinners or anything like that at this stage. I then let the model sit for 10-15 minutes before then going in with some various sized makeup sponges and brushes to remove all of the excess enamel wash. And when removing the enamel wash, I spent most of my focus on removing the wash from all the top facing surfaces, and in most cases a quick wipe with the sponge was enough. And if there were any stubborn areas where the enamel wash had dried in a little too much, I just used a little bit of white spirits on the tip of the sponge, but for the most part that really wasn't needed. And after the removal process is complete, you should be left with two nicely shaded and highlighted models. And the next step is to paint in all of the glowing orbs across the model in a contrasting accent colour of your choosing. And I decided to go for the Army Painter Deep Blue Green Triad for the bone coloured armour. And starting from a dark purple base coat, I used the triad colours to highlight up the area, going from the darkest colour to the lightest, progressively covering a smaller and smaller area. And for the blue steel armour version of the model, I just did exactly the same thing, only this time using Army Painter Bootstrap Brown as my base coat, and then using Army Painter Orange Triad for all of the highlights. And I just used this exact same technique to paint in all of the glowing orbs across both of the models, and then they're both complete and ready to be based. All in all, I'm really happy with the way the stippling technique and the enamel wash has turned out. And I now just need to work out which one I'm going to use to paint the rest of my Necron army. I think I'm leaning towards the blue steel with the orange highlights, but let me know in the comments down below which one you prefer, and I'll see you in the next one.